breast cancer and all the challenges that come along with it, from discovery, diagnostic testing, treatments, and the hurdles in between. Welcome to my channel. Sit back, relax, and I hope that what I have to say can add value to your life. So, let's discuss how I discovered this little lump lurking in the depths of my right breast. But before we do so, I'd like to take you back a step or two and give you some insight in terms of my lifestyle and family history, as I believe that's important when it comes to a diagnosis such as cancer. So basically, I like to think that I'm a fairly fit individual. I used to train 5 to 6 days a week with a combination of cardio as well as weight training. I lived quite a healthy lifestyle in terms of diet. And I feel that I was always very proactive when it came to my health. I used to go for yearly checks at the biokineticist, the gynecologist, my dentist, GP. It was always about trying to be as proactive as possible. And given the fact that I was fortunate enough to be on one of the best medical aids for many, many years, Discovery, I was able to have access to private doctors and practices. So not to say that they are necessarily better, but in terms of timeline, waiting lists, and quality consultations, it certainly can make the world of difference. So let's get to it then. In 2018, I'm in the shower and washing, feeling, I generally normally wash with the loofah, and then afterwards I just rinse and I feel with my bare hands, and I always have, like I said, I like to feel the body, making sure everything's in order. And I discovered this little lump under the left armpit. Needless to say, in that moment, my heart just dropped, my stomach turned, and I was like, what the hell? This is out of the ordinary. And given family history, hence me being so proactive with my own health, I knew that it was always good to be proactive and, how can I say, get on top of things, because early detection can make the world of difference when it comes to a person's health. And unfortunately, there's cancer on both sides of my family, of my mother and my father's side. So again, I immediately called a GP practice. Well, not a GP, it was like a doctor in Santon. And I said I'd like to come in for a consultation. I literally waited 24 hours and got an appointment, which was fantastic. So the very next day, I was in the clinic. And it was about 10-15 minutes before I was about to be called in. I got a call from my client, and working for myself, I always put my client's needs ahead of my own. Looking back now, I feel a bit silly because of that particular day, a client breathing down my neck had forgot to place an order and needed it delivery ASAP. So I told the receptionist, listen, can I maybe move my appointment out for later that day? And they were fully booked, and they said, but however, they could see me the following day. And again, like I say, I felt a bit silly because I put my client's needs above my own health and my own concerns. And off I went and was stuck in traffic, but needless to say, I did what I needed to do, got my client what they wanted, and continued to stress a little bit further. I didn't have a very good night's sleep that night, but I knew that the next day I'd get some answers. So the next day I was back at the clinic or the practice, and went and saw the doctor, and he did a scan, like a sonar of the left breast and armpit. And he took some measurements, and he basically said, look, there's nothing to be concerned about. And I said, how do you know this? And he said, look, well, we can tell by the scans that nothing looks suspicious. And I was like, but given my family history, like I'm a little bit concerned, I wanted a little more of a definitive answer. And he said, you can come back in 6 months to a year's time, and we can check it again. Needless to say, I wasn't happy with that feedback, and I decided I wanted to get a second opinion. Being in my 30s, I thought it was a good time to start getting a mammogram done and getting some more thorough testing done. So I had a mammogram done, and I had another sonar of the left breast and right breast done. And as I said, the procedure obviously is not pleasant. They basically squeeze your breasts in between these two objects, but it's not pleasant, but it's necessary, and I highly recommend that all women do get a mammogram and make sure that they are checking their breasts from an early age. 30 is not a bad time to start. I know they recommend around 40, but I recommend starting in your 30s, rather safe than sorry. So anyway, I had it done, and they said to me, no worries, just compared from the previous report from the other doctor, they agree and think there's nothing to be concerned about, and there's no lumps or suspicious activity going on in the breast that I should be concerned about. And again, I said, family history, please, I really, really want to be sure. Can you not do a biopsy on that little bump there in the left armpit? And they just said, it's obviously maybe a reactive lymph node or an insect bite or something like that, and that they've monitored it now, they've measured everything, and they have it on file, and that I should come back in 6 months for a follow-up. So that was in 2018. I left with a little bit more reassurance, feeling okay, I've done the right thing, and I'm on top of this now, and I should just put it in the back of my mind and continue with life, and which I did. Life continued, busy, business was good, albeit a bit stressful. 2019 rolled around, and I'm not going to lie, I counted each month down for that 6-month follow-up, and eventually my follow-up date came about, and I went back in, and I had another mammogram done, and I had another scan done, and again they reassured me and said to me, look, there is nothing to be concerned about, nothing suspicious, no calcifications, no bumps, lumps, or any issues to be concerned about. And I've uploaded the report, so you can see 2018 and 2019. You can have a little look and read through in terms of the terminology, because they are quite technical with the terms that they use. So I've uploaded that for you as well to have a little squiz at. So I left, again feeling a little reassured, but still concerned because the lymph node or the little bump was still within the left side of the breast there. But needless to say, I felt I did everything I could do from a person's perspective to get it checked out, and decided to just continue my life being as possibly, because eating clean, maintaining a healthy lifestyle in terms of exercise, and just went on, I suppose, with life. And then 2020 rolls around, dun dun dun, we all know what happened in 2020. The world got turned upside down, and the medical industry basically was also turned on its head. And I wasn't able to do another follow-up in 2020, but again, it wasn't recommended. They said only when you turn 40, we suggest you come back. But what I did not expect was, in the modern world we're living in society, for us to be faced with prohibition. And obviously we know that around the world service industries were affected, entertainment industry was affected, but in South Africa specifically, it was banned to sell alcohol. And being in the alcohol industry, working for myself for almost 6 years, 7 years in total within the industry, and 6 years working for myself, it came to a crashing halt. And like I said, it was just quite a shock to the system, where you're not allowed to do what you have been doing basically to earn an income, but you have to respect the laws and abide by the lockdown rules and regulations. And I thought it was just going to be something that would last maybe 2-3 weeks, as I said, and it persisted for almost a year, basically, that all businesses were completely affected and came to a halt. And I think many industries, both large and small, especially smaller businesses, were very affected. But I took it as a sign to just slow down, and I even decided to step up on my training game, and I turned my home office into a gym. And it started with like 5-litre water bottles, but I even entered a fitness competition. So again, I did not lay back and eat and get unhealthy. I actually stepped up my health and was being very proactive with my exercising. I basically reached all my personal goals that I wanted to reach within the competition. Although I didn't place, I was working very hard, diligently, and just proactively at home every single day to just try and manage my time accordingly and my health, and I was quite proud of what I was able to achieve. And long story short, by the end of 2020, we sat and we had to make some very difficult decisions and choices because, like I say, my business was in the midst of transitioning from a sales and marketing to a full-time PR company, still within the fine wine sector, but it was obviously illegal to sell these products. So I decided to pack up all my stuff. My partner decided to join me and he said, great, let's do this. And we immigrated here to the UK. And we spent just over 2.5, almost 3 weeks in our quarantine apartment in London. And we were really excited for the prospects of the future. And yes, it was sad leaving everything behind and, you know, starting over from scratch with like no one you knew in the area and like no family or friends really close by. So it was a little bit of a challenge, but I was optimistic and so was he. And as I was starting to look around within the industry, again, lockdown came. So London, or the UK, was hit with its second wave and lockdown. And again, all the industries were shut down. So we literally came from a very hard lockdown in South Africa to a lockdown in the UK. And we were just like, what the hell? Like, okay, universe, we'll just continue to wait and we'll continue to be patient. And I decided to upskill myself. And I did a few online courses, one of which being a mental health awareness course, level 2, just to help me with the transition from like letting go of the company to moving to a new country, starting over and dealing with all the challenges that, you know, that we were faced with. And I do believe that mental health was a massive thing that affected a lot of people. And never did I even begin to realize that how valuable that course would actually be moving forward. I also did my WSET level 2 through WSET London as well, as it's something I wanted to achieve for the longest of time, obviously being in the alcohol industry for so many years. And it's something I felt extremely proud of achieving and being able to understand wines on an international level, and felt that when the time arose, I would be able to add value to any establishment as well as my own PR company. And I was feeling like chuffed, very chuffed and grateful and appreciative that I could take that time to study. And I also did a few more other online courses and still currently completing a few more. But basically, long story short, in order to start this new PR company, it was mandatory at the time to be vaccinated so that I could meet with new suppliers. I complied, and unfortunately that's where my life and health took a turn for the worst. I experienced very severe and adverse reactions after my first vaccination, and I had to basically put my life on pause. It started with just, how can I say, some complications around my breathing, and the next minute my breast tissue was just in pain. It just started to change. I started realizing that there were symptoms happening around my body that was just not normal. I contacted the GP and they told me to just relax and that this too shall pass. About 3 days later, I contacted the GP again, fourth day again. I continuously called for about a week before anybody would actually really listen to me, as I was just being told that this was a common side effect and that it would pass. And to be honest, they even said to me that, and I quote, "I know this feels real in your head. I know this feels real, but it's all in your head." And that really upset me greatly because, like I say, I didn't feel like I was suffering from anxiety. I was suffering from symptoms that were creating a lot of discomfort within my body. So much so that I stopped training completely. I mean, like full stop. Just I didn't go for my normal 5K runs. I didn't do any weightlifting. I didn't do any training whatsoever. I was sweating profusely. My breast tissue felt like there was fireworks going off in it. It was just burning, my breast tissue. And that's when I discovered this lump that was really sore to the touch. And to be honest, in that week, I dropped about 6 kilograms without trying, which I thought was really, really strange. You know, everybody's like, great, oh, wow, you know, you lose weight. But, you know, to me, it was very scary without any effort to drop such a large amount of weight in such a short period, I didn't feel that was normal nor healthy. And the fact that I was now at a point where I was crying every day from the pain, like I couldn't think, couldn't function, I couldn't talk, I couldn't walk, struggling to breathe, and it was becoming quite of a concern to me. And eventually the doctor basically agreed, and she sighed over the phone and said, "Would you feel better if I saw you?" And I said, "Absolutely, please, I need a physical consultation. Something's not right and I need you to feel my breast." So tearfully and painfully I made my way to the practice that I was registered at the time, and obviously being lockdown rules and regulations, face-to-face consultations weren't being accepted, hence me having to be so persistent in getting this appointment. I met with the doctor and I was quite upset at the fact that all my concerns were dismissed, especially when I try to raise the fact that I think a yellow card should be filled out, but we won't get too much into that because it's quite a sensitive subject. And she basically declined and said to me that I was probably suffering from a common breast mouse. But again, I said, family history, please. I need a more definitive answer. And I said, I've also got a medical report that shows I was fit, healthy, strong, because before we immigrated, I did a full medical through my Discovery Medical Aid, blood tests, again, gynecologist, dentist, biokineticist, COVID test, like you name it, just tick, 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 to make sure that we were healthy and fit to travel and obviously start a new life. And she wasn't interested in any of my baseline medical files, not even my breast reports from the previous scans, nothing about that. And I said to her, surely, if there was any issues that would have been picked up then. And she just said, look, we'll get you to a breast specialist and just have it checked out. So obviously, again, having to wait within the NHS, it does take some time to get another appointment, a follow-up or even a referral. But I do consider myself lucky because I got it within 3 weeks. I was seen. So now we're sitting in November 2021, and I got an appointment to see a breast specialist in December, the 15th of December 2021. It was, again, like I say, it was a long wait and a painful wait, and obviously I had to be proactive with my home care because I couldn't wait that long to get answers. So I decided to look into the Wim Hof methodologies. I heard a lot of great things around inflammation around the heart, as well as cold exposure, helping with mental clarity, helping with a lot of elements around from autoimmune diseases, cancers, you name it. It just all these little boxes came popping up, and I just felt to myself like this is the best thing to do whilst I wait for the NHS to see me. And to be honest, I wasn't sleeping properly at all. I was maybe sleeping 3-4 hours a night. I was up 4 o'clock in the morning just sobbing because I was in pain and I was scared and I was confused and just I couldn't focus, to be honest. It's pretty hard to focus when your health is hanging in the balance and you don't know what's going on. So you just got to try and be as proactive and positive as possible, and obviously just pray. Me, my faith, I'm very, a strong believer in God, and I just continue to pray to God to just guide, bless and protect me and keep me safe. And eventually the 15th of December rolled around and we went into the hospital to see the specialist. And to be honest, from introduction, it wasn't a pleasant experience. I had met with a nurse beforehand because I decided to do basically a pap smear whilst waiting for that appointment, as it was due again to have that yearly checkup, and I just wanted to make sure everything was fine. And when I met with some of the nurses while waiting to do that procedure, I was warned that things are a little bit challenging within the NHS, and that this particular nurse as well, was suffering and is a breast cancer survivor, and she was just going through a very difficult time. But long story short, everything she warned me against pretty much happened. I thought maybe she just had a bad experience, but needless to say, we were there on the 15th of December. We get called in, And, well, not we, I get called in. My partner's told to wait outside. He's not allowed to come into the room with me. I had to do a mammogram, a sonar, like an ultrasound, as well as a biopsy. But what was strange was on the day I had to redo my mammogram twice. And I don't think it's due to the fact that, it wasn't done right the first time. I just think there was something suspect within the imagery, and they had to just make sure they were looking at this correctly. So I went in the second time, which I thought was odd, because the procedure itself is not very pleasant. So having to do it twice on one day, get dressed, get undressed, get dressed, get undressed, was not very nice. So then basically all my concerns again were dismissed around the day my symptoms started. And for some reason, this just seems to be a sensitive subject, and medical professionals do not want to discuss it. Well, not here in the UK at least, for some reason. I'm not entirely sure why. But off I went, and I was just told that they would have the results in a few weeks, as given it's the festive season, or close to the festive time, I say 15th of December. Apparently the doctors and the hospitals are starting to wind down, and they couldn't guarantee when I'd get my results. So this was stressful, going into Christmas with this looming in the back of my mind. And, I've been waiting since November, now it's December, now they're telling me, possibly New Year. So I decided to just be grateful that we had got that step done, and that soon we'd get a more definitive answer surrounding this lump. And it just continued to be such a painful wait, and such a, how can I say, tumultuous journey. It was just, I felt everything felt really cold and cruel and condescending, and just things were said that I felt was really unnecessary. But regardless, got everything done we needed to get done, and off we went. I decided, I told my partner that, I think it would be good if we could just get away for a couple of days, just to go into nature, and just to soothe the soul. I've always felt like being in nature kind of just calms me, centers me, and I feel one, when I'm in nature. So he suggested that we go past his family via Bristol, pop in there over Christmas, and then we would carry on with our little excursion and go into nature. We managed to find a lovely little flower orchid farm in Penzance. It's basically like an art studio. We got to spend a few days at a nice cold water stream. So I was there up every single morning, really, really early. Remember, this is now in the heart of winter, so the weather is optimal for cold water breathing, and I was just out there in nature, breathing, doing the Wim Hof methodology, and trying to just center myself as we waited. And I just said to myself, no matter what, everything's going to be okay, everything's going to be okay, everything's going to be okay. And I just thought, the more I told myself that, the more everything would be okay, and the results would come back, and we would just get on with our lives. So we had a really good and wonderful time, amazing experience there. My breast was still sore, but I found that my heart specifically and my breathing was starting to get better, and I managed to breathe a little better, and I was starting to sleep a little better. And we headed back to London, and we welcomed 2022. We were back in our little apartment in London, and I received a letter in the post stating that they needed to do another biopsy, a stereo core biopsy to be exact. And I was a little bit concerned, because I thought to myself, well, we're doing another biopsy, but we're not getting any results regarding the first tests that were done. And, from scans, mammograms, biopsies wise, there are no reports in terms of that. And I remember sending an email on the 3rd of January, and I was aware that, the medical industry was, hadn't opened again fully, really. And so I followed up with a phone call on the 4th of January, early that morning, around 8:30 a.m. is when the lines open, just to tell them that, I wasn't comfortable with doing another biopsy until I had the results of my previous biopsy, and that I wanted to understand what was going on now, because, it's now going on past 2.5-3 weeks, and I just want some feedback. I'm a little bit concerned. I got a call back, and the receptionist at the breast center was extremely rude, and basically was questioning me, and when did I send this email, and who did I send it to, and I was just a little bit taken aback, to be quite honest. And I said, listen here, I have to be honest with you, I don't feel like my medical, how can I say, experience, my medical file and my diagnosis is being, my treatment as a whole is being, how can I say, I didn't feel like it was being managed properly. And I said, I think it's better I start over fresh at another place. Could I please go to this hospital? And I mentioned a particular hospital, to which she said, and I quote, "They do not treat breast cancer patients there." And I was like, hold on, who said I'm a cancer patient? She started to fumble and got very defensive. And I was just confused, I was concerned, and in a moment I just felt really traumatized, because I was like, what did she just say to me? Like, did she just say to me I have cancer? And I said, I'd like to speak to a doctor. And she said to me, sorry, a doctor won't be able to see until the 18th of January. I was like, what's going on? And she's like, well, because you didn't come today for your biopsy, they could only see you on the 18th. And I said to her, well, I said, as per my email, I'm not comfortable to come for another biopsy until I get my results. So I then I put the phone down, and I felt very just upset. I was tearful, I was confused, I was traumatized, and to be honest, till this day, I'll never forget that phone call. This is a lot on a person's mental capacity to take in. Like, you just don't know how to process this, and now you just be told to wait. So I arrived at the hospital that day. I cannot explain to you the feeling. Like, it was such a horrible feeling, because they treat you like you've done something wrong, and you haven't. And you're just concerned about your health, and you're just asking questions, and they kind of treat you horribly. And this particular day, I was taken to a completely different side of the breast center unit. Like, not even inside where I went prior to that. I was segregated from my partner again, and taken into a room within a room, and there were multiple people in that room. There was a doctor that I'd never met before, and I think 2 or 3 nurses, if I'm not mistaken. And I thought this was strange. You've just told me that there can't be that many people in a room, but yeah, I'm in a room with like 3 to 4 people that I've never met in my life. And I was raising my concerns again, and all my concerns was dismissed. And I was saying that I would like to chat to the doctors about my result, and they said, sorry, you can't chat to the doctor until you had this biopsy, the spherical biopsy. And I was like, I thought I'd explained myself over the phone and explained that I would like to know what's going on before doing this next procedure. And it just went on back and forth. And this particular doctor, who I do not like at all, and I think has been like a thorn in my side ever since, just was very, I felt like she was pushing her own agendas and pushing the fact that they needed to do this. And so I eventually agreed. I just wanted to get out of that room, to be honest, and did the stereo core biopsy, which was very invasive, very unpleasant, and extremely painful in the sense of just the entire experience as a whole. The normal biopsy, you're on your back, and they do like they work with needles. This particular one, you're laying on your stomach, and they're working from beneath you, and it's a lot more intense. And I just felt that every time I try to raise, because obviously there was a lovely nurse within the room with me holding my hand, and I really, really appreciate this breast care nurses that talk you through stressful situations and are there to give comfort. So there were, like I said, there's few and far in between. There are really amazing people within the NHS that really make a world of difference in these situations. And I was chatting to her about my symptoms and the day it started, and how my body didn't react well to my vaccination. And she just the doctor shushed me, told me to shush. And I was like, whoa, okay, I'll change the subject, because again, this seems to be like a sensitive subject, and I'm just expressing myself because I'm concerned. And so I started to whisper, and I started to tell the nurse about my other courses that I had done, to which the doctor was very interested in all of a sudden and wanted to hear about that, especially my British monarchy diploma. And I think she didn't really like what I had to say, because I'm just fascinated with the history of this beautiful country. And yeah, I just felt like she moved forward in a very vindictive and harmful way, but I'll just leave it at that. And so eventually the procedure is complete, and I'm now taken into the doctor to eventually get my diagnosis officially, you can say. And I'm seated in a room again by myself, and she says to me that basically there's a malignant tumor within the right breast. It is cancerous, but it's early breast cancer. And I said to her, wow, it's quite a shock to the system. And I said to her, what are the next steps? And she said to me, I'm going to require surgery, a lumpectomy to remove the tumor, as well as do chemotherapy in the form of tabs, a short course of that, as well as possible radiation and 2 years of tamoxifen. So it's a lot of information to take in and process. So I ask again, please, could I just have my partner in the room with me, because I'm feeling a little bit emotional and I'm a little bit stressed, and I just want to make sure that I understand everything correctly. And she agreed, and she called my partner in and asked her to please just repeat herself, which she did. But again, he and I felt that the doctor there wasn't a lot of compassion coming from her side. And I understand that the NHS has got a backlog and they've got a lot of people to see. But, when given a diagnosis, I think time should be taken, and people should be a little bit more kind, caring, compassionate, and empathetic towards their patients going through difficult changes and life-changing, diagnosis. I just didn't feel like it was there in that room. So I was disappointed, I was sad, I was, again, traumatized by just everything that I had gone through. So we left, and my partner was, shooken up, given because he himself was going through a difficult time, as one of his family members were also recently diagnosed with breast cancer. So it was, a shock to the system, all this, they're having to deal with all these diagnoses and struggles, and, within the first year of immigrating, you don't expect this sort of turn, but there's nothing one can do. I then contacted my GP and I said to her, look, I want to chat a little bit further around this diagnosis and the symptoms and the day it all started, and what I can do in terms of more home care. And I said that I would like to request basically a referral to see another doctor as well, just to chat about this. And I was told to grin and bear it, and that they would put my treatment back if I wanted to get a second opinion. So I did what I was told, not knowing that same doctor was going to be the doctor that was going to have to do the surgical procedure on me, and I was not comfortable with that. I was like, not a chance in hell that I was going to let someone further touch me or have to, treat me that I don't feel comfortable nor safe with in the room. So eventually, long story short, I know I digress a bit, giving you a lot of detail, I was then put over to another doctor's care, and I was given an update regarding the stereocore biopsy. During all this, I suffered from a hematoma within the right breast due to the stereocore biopsy. It looked like a mountain had formed within the right breast. It was no longer just the lump I was concerned about and that I was in pain in. I had literally, it looked like a spike coming out of the breast. It was extremely painful, but again, I was doing my Wim Hof methodology, ice, and I do believe that made the world of difference in terms of my healing. I then had to go for needle aspiration and had to draw some of the basically dead blood out of the hematoma just to bring down the swelling and to help mitigate the pain. Again, not pleasant, but I had a lovely lady do that. It makes a world of difference when you're dealing with people who care. And then I was given, like I say, an update saying that my surgery had to change, and it went from a lumpectomy to a full mastectomy of the breast, because apparently the stereocore biopsy showed microcalcification was the cancer had spread. So I was very concerned, because it said, I told them it felt like I had fireworks going off in my breast, and based on my previous mammograms and reports, there was no such thing, nothing like that going on in my breast. And so I was a little bit confused and concerned. And I just thought to myself, oh, like, how's this possible? And they told me that it's probably been there for a long time. And I said, but it hasn't. Like, and again, no one was interested in my baseline medical reports, and me being so proactive, saying that there was no sign of this, so this is impossible. How did this come about? And then which brings me to my next point, is I wanted to know that because they were like, oh, well, you said your family history, so that I said to them, cool, I want DNA testing done. Like, it's basically gene testing, it's called like BRCA1, BRCA2, and I insisted on this. Like, so if I was a carrier of this gene, I wanted to have both my breasts removed so that I didn't have to deal with the left breast. And that was arranged pretty quickly, so I'm very grateful for that. And I dealt with a really lovely doctor who spoke me through the procedures and told me everything I needed to know. And the test results came back pretty quickly and showed that they were all negative. Like, there was no cancer gene. I was not a carrier of the cancer gene. So I was shocked again, because like, where did this all come from? And then I was also quite upset because the paperwork was not correlating. The previous doctor that I didn't feel comfortable with showed that there was cancer in the left breast, and then it was the right breast. So I was just really confused, and I was basically told to pretend that it didn't happen, it was just a typo. And these sort of things are important, especially when doing diagnosis, because you've heard of all kinds of crazy stories, how people have legs and arms amputated on the left side and the right side, the wrong side, So I felt very, very uncomfortable, but a lot more secure in the new doctor's care. And he basically told me that my mastectomy would be scheduled for the 21st of March. So that was like about a 2-month wait. So again, it was a very long process to get from point A to point B, but at least we had some definitive answers, and albeit a bit sad and not exactly news we wanted to hear, we knew we just needed to do what needed to get done, and so we did. And then March rolled around, 21st of March, and I was prepping for surgery and prepping my mind, my body, my soul, just every day, very diligently, from methodology, breath work, cold exposure, eating clean, staying away from sugars, fatty foods, no alcohols, like just staying away from all those bad stuff that could cause any harm. And I believe I managed my life in a way that I try to be calm and patient and not let myself get ahead of myself. So it was challenging, but I managed to do the best I can. My sister flew in from South Africa to come help with the recovery, and just to relieve my partner in terms of he was obviously under a lot of pressure and stress, and he was having to deal with all this. It's just me and him, to be honest. We didn't tell many people at first. For the first few months, I didn't tell anybody, because obviously just waiting that long to get results, so just something that I kept up to myself. And I think I told like a handful of people. Some people I regret telling, but it is what it is. But yeah, so it was just quite a lonely journey in the beginning, because I just had a lot to process myself. And I think a lot of friendships were tested, like both personally, from a family perspective. Like I had a lot of time to think, contemplate about what's actually truly important in life. There's nothing quite like a cancer diagnosis that makes you reevaluate what and who's important. And so in a way it was a blessing in disguise, because I might have lost a lot of things during this period, during this transition, but I found myself and I found my voice, and for the first time in my life I was standing up for myself, and even though people didn't like it, I wasn't going to stop. So Sister flies in, it's great to see her, embrace her, not the best circumstances, but grateful nonetheless. So she spent a month with us, and on the day of my surgery, never forget, prepped and ready, got up really early that morning, 5 o'clock, to do my breathing, my ice bath. We were at the hospital at 7 a.m. for check-in. Again, we got there. Family's not allowed to go in with you because of rules and regulations in terms of COVID and all that stuff. So it's just a bit sucky, but I know that they're close by, and I get prepped for surgery. I'm in my scrubs and feeling good, feeling positive, and gonna get this done. And I think I was scheduled to go in around 9 o'clock for my surgery. And as they come in to do the checks, they asked me, was the radioactive injection in the right nipple done yet? So I was like, what? What do you mean? What radioactive injection? Nipple? What are you talking about? They're like, you were meant to go and have this injection done at Hammersmith Hospital. Have you done it? So I said, I was not aware of any of this. So they were like, oh, again, let's pretend this didn't happen. Let's get you dressed, and you're going to have to make your way to this other hospital because that's the only place you can have this procedure done. And once you have it done, you can come back and we can get you back and prepped for surgery. But you must hurry now. And then they said to me they couldn't get me transport because there was just no transport available, and the ambulances were like backed up. There was a whole palaver around that here in the UK. And I said, my family's already left. So caught an Uber, went to this hospital, got the radioactive injection in my right nipple, made my way back to the hospital. They were shocked that I got there and back so quickly, but I was like, obviously time is of the essence. But regardless of me trying to again be proactive, my surgery was then pushed out so later that day, I think around 6 p.m. I was only wheeled in for surgery. It's a long time. You can't eat anything, you can't drink anything from the day before. So, that was a little bit unpleasant, and you mentally prepare yourself, and then you got to sit and you got to wait. But given the fact that I'd already waited months to get to that point, what's a few more hours? And I just try to stay as calm and as polite and as positive as possible. Eventually they wheeled me in, and I believe the surgery took about 7 hours, if I'm not mistaken. It was quite a technical procedure. Obviously with a mastectomy, they do a scraping of the breast, and they had to also do a sentinel lymph node removal. And again, I was under very good care in terms of the surgeon. I think he's one of the best, and I'm very fortunate to have been under his care currently. And he was very methodical in terms of doing the best he could. And they did immediate reconstruction after the surgery. So meaning they put an implant in. So basically I have a real breast and I have one fake breast. So I'm just grateful regardless, because I think cancer technology and surgeries and treatment offering has come a long way, and I'm just grateful regardless that I have some shape and symmetry and that it's not completely flat. So very, very, very grateful for that, and everything went well. There were a few little hiccups in between in terms of just information. So my partner and them were running around, when I was wheeled out, I think I was wheeled out around about 12 o'clock, and they had not heard anything. They hadn't provided any feedback, so they were besides themselves. They were obviously stressed and worried, and my sister and him were outside the ward trying to get in and just get some sort of feedback. So they eventually allowed them in to come see me after a lot of fuss, back and forth debate. They were allowed in, and they gave me my Ellie, my stuffed elephant, my little gift to my sister. And I felt fine. Like I said, I felt very grateful and thankful, and I felt that I felt strong, and I was discharged the next day. So success, surgery with some drainage, and that's all. I think it went well. Ladies enjoy the whole process of being in the hospital per se, but I felt that the process went okay, and I was just really grateful to have the cancer cut out. And obviously there was necrosis of my nipple, so it was very, traumatizing to look at, but I just kept telling to myself, this is in your breast, this will heal, color will return, everything's going to be okay, and just continue to pray. And literally 3 days later I was back in my ice baths, so with my drain pipe and all, and I felt like the healing went pretty well, to be honest. And I was now waiting for the test results regarding the sentinel lymph node removal. And I'll never forget that day. So now we're doing a checkup on the breast, surgery site, and are getting the results. And my doctor, he just basically said, look, the news is not good. Unfortunately, your results have come back, and it shows that cancer has spread to a lymph node. So we're going to have to schedule a full axillary clearance in a month's time and remove the rest of your lymph nodes, as a precautionary measure. And you're going to need to obviously go through with your chemotherapy, but you'll talk to an oncologist about that. So I was just, again, just a lot of information to take in, and you remain positive and you think everything's fine, and you get this news and you're like, bang, have to process this all over again, which is okay. We do this is what we have to go through. So we processed that information and prepared for the next surgery. The next surgery rolled around end of April, and that didn't go as smoothly as the first, just in terms of healing. I suffered from a seroma. It was pretty bad. I felt like the stitching wasn't, basically the wound wasn't closed properly, and it was leaking fluid, and it was just a horrible ordeal. And obviously getting appointments and follow-ups and checkups, and doctors can try and just be as diligent as possible, but these consultations are like 10-15 minutes, if that. And I just didn't think that people were actually listening when I said to them, look, I'm having complications, and then given the wrong ointments and then getting an allergic reaction to that. So it was just, again, it was not a pleasant experience. And I personally feel that there's certain people there that didn't particularly like that I asked so many questions, or that I was calling so much with my concerns, and I'm deemed trouble or a difficult patient for asking all these questions and being so proactive, I suppose. But regardless, got it done, got it checked, got my seroma drained. It was 100 milliliters. That was pretty intense. A lot of fluid build up there. Got that drained. And we continued to just heal at home. But like I say, it was emotionally, the second time around was a little bit more difficult. But on a positive note, the test results came back from the lymph node clearance, and I went under, it's called lymphosurgery, and I'm one of the first, a small select group in the UK of women, people to have gone through this new procedure. So apparently it's a very revolutionary type surgery, where they're using injections and microsurgery to identify breast cancer, and it's going to be very beneficial to people moving forward in the UK. And it's something I'll touch base on a little bit more in depth on another video, and show you some more, like I say, images and things surrounding that, and a little bit more information as well of the case study itself, to give you more clarity in terms of the technical jargon, which I'm always trying to learn and understand what it means and how to pronounce certain things, which I will get there. And so the results came back, and they said that there was no further disease in any other lymph nodes. So out of the 26 they removed, there was nothing, and it was only that one that from the first surgery. So, and as a matter of fact, it actually wasn't necessary to do an axillary clearance apparently, because it was already removed with the first surgery, and this is basically just a precautionary measure. And so that's positive. Got to hold on to that, I suppose. Didn't really need it, and the body has to now adjust to processing toxins without those lymph nodes, but we do what we do. The next step was chemotherapy, and like I say, that is a whole different conversation, and I'm definitely going to get into the depths of what happened there, but I'll definitely delve into the depths of that at the next chat. But just to let you know that it is now just over a year of my first surgery, and how can I say, the first surgery, the first mastectomy was on the 21st of March, so we're heading over, it's just over a year and a bit, and feeling good and feeling positive. There's been many challenges, and there's been many obstacles, hurdles, and just changes. But I continue to remain grateful, positive, and appreciative for my life, and the fact that the NHS was able to get this cancer out of me. And even though we've got a long way to go, I'm just very thankful that we have come this far, and that I am alive, and that I am now able to talk about my experience, because for a long time I wasn't able to talk about this without crying. So I've done a lot of healing, and I've done a lot of soul searching, and I've had to make some more difficult choices in my life in terms of what and who is relevant. And I'm just so glad that through all this loss I managed to find myself, and that to me is quite important. And I hope that I can add value to your life, and hope I can share more stories, and I can share more in-depth detail in terms of, you know, checking your boobies and checking your body in general, and listening to your gut instinct. And may this journey, how can I say, inspire and show you that anything is possible when you are determined and you're positive, and that when you believe, like Mom says, when you believe, anything is truly possible. So I know that, like I said, there's a long way to go still, and there's many challenges that come along with a diagnosis, but I remain optimistic and believe that it's all a blessing in disguise, redirecting me to my true purpose, to my people, and to a life that I was meant to live. And that is just becoming more self-aware, slowing down, and thanking God for this amazing life. So love and light, and on the next video we'll discuss, maybe I'll just touch base on the chemotherapy journey and what happened in between there. I know this was a long one, but I just hope that you have a better understanding of the journey, and I'm trying to keep it as short and sweet as possible, but it was a lot to put in 1 year, to put in maybe 1 hour. But I hope I could do this justice, and I hope that more of you can join me on my journey. So if you found this helpful and informative in any way, please like, subscribe, share, and I will chat to you soon. P.S. if there's anything else you would like to add in terms of like what you've personally gone through yourself or a loved one, I'd love to hear about it. Drop it in the comments below and tell me how you find dealing with a diagnosis, how it has affected your life, and let's just help one another grow, heal, and love and light. Thanks for watching.